So I'm just gonna address the glowing 8-foot-tall lesbian elephant in the room and say that no, this video will not cover anything that Super She-Ra does in Season 5. I guess I'll make her a character down the line, but by my estimate, that'll be 4 Adoras on the roster. I thought I based this game off of Skullgirls, not Dragon Ball FighterZ. Well then, with that out of the way, we can talk about She-Ra. For each character I made for this project, I based them around 3 core fighting game characters to inform the design. Now, I'll still go and nip a move or 2 from other characters, but each character still have those 3 characters at their core to inspire and demonstrate the design that I want them to have. And those fighters for Adora are Ryu from the Street Fighter series, Graham from Grand Blue Versus, and Akatsuki from Under Night In-Birth. Yes, Adora will be fulfilling the archetype often reserved for the main character of fighting games, the balanced Shoto character. The Shoto character originates from Street Fighter itself with the characters of Ryu and Ken. They both had very similar movesets, but still their own unique differences, and that was because they were both black above the Shotokan karate style, which became shortened to Shoto. What turned the name of a martial art into a classifier of a fighting game character archetype was the specific movesets of these Shotos. Capcom knew that the main character of their fighting game would often be the one that players first gravitate to, so they desired to make the character as well balanced on all tools and make them easy to understand. So, how did these balanced movesets work? Well, each one of them had very similar moves that defined a Shoto. A rising uppercut called a Dragon Punch or Shoryuken, a fireball projectile or Hadouken, and an advancing move called a Tatsumaki Senpuken. These moves were all created for a key purpose of balancing the character, with having a good solid anti-air option and get off me tool, a decent projectile to do a bit of zoning, and then an advancing move to close in the distance and also continue combos. So, as She-Ra is the main character, it's only natural that she should fill a similar role. I want to bring this up right now, but unless I feel it's very necessary, I will not be going over the lights and mediums of a character's kit, unless I feel it is important to do so. This is because the lights and mediums will mostly be made of various punches and kicks, with weapon attacks being reserved for the heavy buttons. All that will be covered in the moveset is the heavies, the specials, the supers, the princess powers, and to wrap it up with the aesthetics and gameplay. So let's move on to our moveset. Skullgirls' system has a basis around doing a ground combo, launching an opponent into the air, and then bringing them back down to continue the combo. So each character in the Skullgirls games has a move designed to launch the foe into the air. For Adora, her heavy attacks incorporate her sword, so her down and heavy attack would be her launcher, and it would look similar to this attack Trunks does in Fighters. While her standing heavy would be a stabbing thrust similar to this move here. For her heavy kicks, I wanted to utilize the various transformations that her sword can do. Her standing heavy kick would be a wind-up overhead with her Morningstar, slow but strong and good for mix-ups. And her crouching heavy kick would have her morph her sword into a staff and strike down with a sweep. When in the air, her heavy kick would be her slamming down into the ground leg first like she often does in the show. But this is also very similar to this move Akatsuki has, which is a great way to continue a combo from the air. But her aerial heavy punch is a strike down with her sword, much like this move by Trunks here. And her grab would have her lasso up the opponent and then punch them away. We'll start the discussion of She-Ra's specials off with her projectile. It would not be an exact replica of a fireball like Ryu's Hadoukens, but it would have the same inputs of down, down forward, and forward. But it would look more like an energy wave, similar to how Goku Black's projectile is. This is much more similar to how her energy attacks look in the show. The difference between each of the projectiles on whether you press light, medium, or heavy is that if it's pushed with light button, it emits at a standard speed, medium is a bit faster, and the heavy creates 2, but much more slow than the other projectiles, allowing for She-Ra to close the distance after firing them and maybe continue to pressure if close enough. For her Shoryuken, it would be an uppercut sword strike very similar to Graham's uppercut, here presented within Grand Blue Versus, with the varying differences of light, medium, and heavy being in the strength of the attack, with the drawback that the stronger attacks have more ending frames, meaning that they are easier to punish if they fail to connect. And like most Shoryukens, there is invincible frames of animation at the start, so you can use it on wake up to not get hit by the opponent's attack. Her Shoryuken will of course use the same Z inputs for the Shoryukens of other games, as presented here with forward, down, and down forward. For her advancing move, I wanted to give her something a bit more unique to the Shoto design, so I decided to give her a multi-directional dashing strike very similar to something characters like Ruby Heart, Ruby Rose, Beowulf, and Mika have. It also is able to be done in air and would be done with a quarter circle forward kick button. Which button you use will affect whether you go forward at a diagonal and straight up on the ground or straight down in the air. Now we get to the supers, performed by doing an input and then pressing 2 punch or kick buttons. She-Ra would have 2 level 1s, a level 3, and a level 5 super. And I feel a good touch would be have her surrounded by this golden aura whenever she does her supers. With a quarter circle forward and 2 punches, She-Ra leaps up and she and Swiftwind would ride across the screen, crashing into the opponent together from behind, similar to how Double's animation from the car super works in Skullgirls. This could also be done in the air, given Swiftwind's wings. Her other super, with quarter circle forward and 2 kicks, would be a massive ranged energy wave, similar to Gia's from Power Rangers Battle for the Grid. Her level 3 would be a quarter circle back and 2 punches, and be very similar to Gia's super here, where she does a rush of different weapons as her sword transforms into different things. Her level 5 has her do a raging storm, because, come on, you see this, don't you? I'm not the only one who sees that this looks like a raging storm, right? Her princess power has her turn her sword into its shield and counter the next attack. But unlike Akatsuki's counter, which sends the opponent away, hers works similar to Catalina's unique action in Grand Blue Versus, where she blocks the attack, then sends the opponent into a crumple state that she can combo out of. Now let's finish off with some aesthetic touches. Given the medium of these videos, there's not too much that can be shown, but we can talk on a few things. She-Ra's entry animation would of course be her transforming from Adora to She-Ra, and her winning animation would have her transform on down and put the sword on her back, with an appropriate win quote for whoever she has fought against or has fought with. And for her taunt, she would transform her sword into a mug and smugly sip from it. As for alternate colors, I'm gonna opt for alternate costumes instead. And She-Ra has a fair bit from the D&D episode, battle armor, so now we have the kid of a fighting game character who's focused on the fundamentals of the fighting game, just knowing when to advance, when to zone, and to be able to serve as an introduction to the system. But next week, let's get a bit loud with the line and move in a bit of a different direction. I'll let you pick between which of these girls to do next, with the choice being between Catra or Scorpia. Catch you next time.